Father, again, thank you for coming to Washington, D.C. This is the first time we've had you as our guest. It was a great pleasure to hear about your monastery in Mexico City. Of course, we met about 15 years ago for the first time when you were a hierom monk. But 15 years has passed and many things have happened. Your monastery has suffered through many difficult hardships over the years. I would like to get to that, but first I want to hear a little bit about your background. I understand you were actually born in the former Soviet Union.
Yes, well, thank you. It's an honor for me to be here, Father. Thank you for inviting me and for hosting me. It's a great opportunity for me to share about the life in Mexico and our mission work. Yes, I was born in the Soviet Union. I don't talk much about it because I don't have much to tell about this.
But you have different blood in you. I mean,
yes,
your father and mother are different ethnics.
I was born in the Soviet Union. I was born in Georgia, in the Socialist Republic of Georgia. Because my father is half Greek and half Georgian. So I was born in Sukhumi on the Black Sea coast, which was very big. It was a large Greek colony for many years. And but we left when I was 4 years old. So I don't have many memories about that. Perhaps, the mark of my background, my origin, it's very important. And of course, I feel closer to Georgia or to the Caucasus culture than to Greece. I mean, I'm a Greek, but not Greek from Greece. I feel more related to Georgia as a culture. And even my language, it's a different type of Greek. Now I speak regular Greek, but before I used to speak more the Pontian Greek, which is
the Black Sea coast.
Yes, and it's a dialect. It's closer to classic Greek. I understand this Pontian dialect, but now I don't speak because I don't have any chance to talk with anybody. Unless I find a Pontian Greek who still speaks this language. But my mother was Persian, so I am part Persian and part Greek Georgian, and I always said Greek Georgian because for me it's the same culture.
Right. You were baptized as a child?
Yes, I was baptized when I was in Sukhumi. So I was baptized there in the Georgian Orthodox Church, yes.
And you were given an Orthodox upbringing?
Yes. Well, during the Soviet times it was difficult to go to church, but I was very small. But then we moved to Turkey. And in Turkey I was able to worship in Greek churches mainly. So yes, I remember my childhood, the years I spent in Turkey, going to church very often, if not 2 or 3 times a week, because I always enjoyed the services. Yes.
And then I understand that from Turkey you ended up in Iran? In
Iran, yes. As a matter of fact, we had to leave Turkey because there were riots against the Christians because Turkey invaded Cyprus.
Oh, yes.
And we left. And we went to Iran because my grandfather had a good position in the government with the Shah. And we moved there because it was more convenient for my mother and for security reasons also for me. So I also spent some years in Iran with family, but my mother was very ill, so I don't have great memories of those years either, because she had leukemia, and she was most of the time she was ill.
And she passed away in Iran?
No, we left also due to the Islamic Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
So when the Shah left, we also left Iran. And she died in France because she went for treatment, but she couldn't resist. Her body was very weak. So she died in a couple of months later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you ended up in Mexico.
I went to Mexico because there was a big community of Iranians who went to Mexico precisely because the Shah of Iran went to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
But we only stayed there for a few months, like 5 months, I think, the most. And then we went to France. But when my mother died, I went to New York because these were my only relatives I had, and I was in New York with my father's family. Yeah.
And where were you educated?
Well, here and there, but in New York I went to school. I went to high school. I started high school. Yes, yes.
And your higher education?
In Mexico mainly.
Mexico.
Yes, Mexico. Yes, because I went to Mexico, and I was with the Greek bishop of Mexico, who took care of me as my spiritual father. At the request of my father, he took care of me. And in Mexico mainly, I went to college, but when my spiritual father was murdered, coming out from the Greek Cathedral in Mexico City, so I interrupted my studies and I left. And I went to Japan. Why Japan? Well, because it's a place where I got a scholarship.
You're well-traveled, Father.
Well, I got a scholarship to study in a Jesuit university, the University of Sofia. And I studied archaeology there, yeah.
But then you somehow ended up in the medical field?
Yes, I went back to Mexico because I had nothing in Japan. But in Mexico, at least, I had somehow some memories from my mother and from my spiritual father, and also the Greek church, which was somehow abandoned after the death of my spiritual father. So I felt morally compelled to go back to Mexico. And I started studying medicine because mainly I always wanted to study medicine. So my mother said no, but I wanted to study medicine, but at the same time I wanted to be in the church. And when my spiritual father died, he already had tonsured me a monk. So I was already a monk when I went to Japan. Yes.
All right. So you received an archaeological education, medical, and you were a monk. And how did it come about that you organized a monastery in Mexico City and ended up in the church abroad?
Yes, I was for many years in the Church of Constantinople in Mexico City. I kept going, I continued my studies in Mexico. I went to college also in the field of anthropology and history. But at the same time, I was administrator of the Greek Cathedral, because there were many priests, different priests who didn't last long.
Coming and going.
Yeah, coming and going. And the community was also upside down. So I had to, somehow I tried to keep them together. I organized the youth and also some classes for adults. And I was taking care of the church, of all the needs, including financial needs, because since I had a job, my money was invested in the church. I mean, whatever I made and whatever need was in the church, I paid for it. So I think I finally realized that there was nothing for me in Mexico, because I stayed in Mexico in the Greek Orthodox Church only because I was needed, but I was not happy. What I wanted to do is to study theology, to get into a monastery and to join a monastery. Yes, of course, I thought about becoming a priest, but first I wanted to do other things. I mean, I wanted to get deeper into my own faith. And in Mexico, there was no way to do it, because at least in the Greek Church, I mean, I was the one who knew more, and I was teaching the chantors, the acolytes, the readers, and I myself had to sing the liturgy. And for me, my knowledge of Orthodoxy was very limited, even though I was always studying, but it was very limited, and I needed more. So I was planning to go to Buenos Aires, because when my spiritual father was shot, because he didn't die immediately, he lasted a whole week after that, so he had time to talk to other people and to me. And there was a bishop, a Greek bishop from Buenos Aires, visiting. He went to see him at the hospital, and my spiritual father made him promise to take care of me, and he said, yes, I will take him to Argentina, and I will take care of him. So he always told me that there was a place for me in Argentina, and finally he said, what if you find some other candidates and bring them to Argentina, and we will make them novices, and maybe you can work in the university in the field of theology, and or a college professor, something we will do with you, but we will open a monastery there. So that was the beginning, because I thought about founding a monastery, and I had 2 or 3 people who were always close to me, and they were interested in the monastic life, and we were planning to go to Argentina. So I was in the process of finishing all my duties and my academic duties in Mexico, and but then right at that moment, the Patriarch of Constantinople split the Greek Archdiocese of North and South America in 3 parts. So one was for North America, another one for Central America, and the other one for South America. So I was told to wait. They asked me to wait. They said that there are big changes. There will be metropolitans in these areas. So why don't you wait a little bit until a new metropolitan is appointed? And yeah, there was a metropolitan appointed for Mexico and Central America, whom I knew from before, and he asked me to stay, and so I couldn't go to Argentina. And he said, at least stay for a couple of years, just to help me establish the metropolis. So I stayed, but after that he said, well, what if we found the monastery in Mexico? And but that was not in my plans, because again, I didn't feel I knew much about neither about the monastic life or about Orthodox Church. And I said, no, I want to go somewhere else. I want to go somewhere else, and I want to study. So finally, I left the metropolis of Mexico, and it was right at the time when I had more success in my life. Was academic. Was an academic. I had everything. I had much. I was a famous person because I was working with the government in the religious field, and I was working also as a physician, and I had everything anybody will want. Okay, but that was not my goal. I gave up everything, and I went to look for the will of God, and was a simple monastic. And this is how I joined the Church of Jerusalem in America. But there was not much in America either in the Church of Jerusalem, because it was a new community of Palestinians mainly. And I went to Jerusalem. I spoke to the Patriarch Irenaeus in those years. And actually, he's the one who told me to go into the church abroad.
Really?
Yes. He said, you should go to the church abroad because your personality fits perfectly in the church abroad. And of course, I knew the church abroad. I had many friends in the church abroad. And I think of all the churches, yes, it was the church abroad, the one who attracted me the most. Why didn't I join before? Well, first of all, because there was no church in Mexico. And I tried because I spoke to Vladika Alexander Miliant from Buenos Aires. And I asked him if there was a possibility to found a mission in Mexico. But he was already very ill. And he couldn't do it. And he said, well, let's wait, let's see if I get a little bit better. So it was just a plan. And also, at the beginning, I thought it was a Russian thing. So the church abroad, I'm not Russian, so maybe I cannot fit in the church abroad. But yes, I went to the church abroad, and through some of my friends who were clergymen, and
But you were not clergyman.
No. I was a simple monk. I was a schema monk. Yeah. And I spoke to Vladika Kirill, Archbishop Kirill, and he received me. He received me along with the other two monks whom I had, because they were already made monks, not by me, but because since we had the project of founding the monastery in Buenos Aires, they were tonsured monks before. Not by me, by other priest monks. And so the three monks were received into the church abroad by Archbishop Kirill.
So you were living as a brotherhood with these other monks?
Yeah, at that time, yes, because since we had the project of going to Buenos Aires, we decided to live together. Yeah.
And when were you ordained a priest monk?
I was ordained in 2006.
2006.
In Holy Trinity Monastery in Jordanville by Metropolitan Lavre.
Yeah, and we met then, I believe.
Yes. He ordained me a hierodeacon and then a hieromonk. So I served in Holy Trinity Monastery. I was there for about half a year. Yeah.
So the monastery is dedicated to the Holy Trinity.
Yes.
And you have what, about 9?
Now we are 7.
Seven. Yes. And tell us about the life of the monastery.
Well, it's a unique monastery because we are an urban monastery. Traditionally,
Center of
monasteries.
one of the largest cities in the world.
Yes, traditionally the monasteries are outside the cities, in a peaceful place or in a village or in the mountains. But it was not really our choice. Metropolitan Love requested me to found a mission in Mexico, the Russian mission. My plans were to go somewhere else, to join a monastery elsewhere. And I had spoken to Metropolitan Love about it, and he agreed. He agreed, and Archimandrite Luke Murianka, he also agreed that we should move to Holy Trinity Monastery, because he said we have much space and we need people. So
In Jordan.
yeah, if you are already monks, well, you can come over and just join the brotherhood. But Metropolitan Love requested me to open the Russian mission because he read some letters from Vladika Alexander Miliant, who were given to the Metropolitan by Vladika Alexander's sister. And these letters never got to the hands of Vladika Alexander. And the Metropolitan said, I read these letters and they are from people from Mexico. These Russian families want to have a Russian mission in Mexico. So you're the only one who can do it. So go back to Mexico. And this is why we had to open what we had in Mexico City was a skit, and then at the same time open the small chapel to minister the Russians. And that was the beginning, but we started from zero, Father. We didn't have much, even though we were a community. But at the beginning, when we were already in the Russian Church abroad, we had more experience because we had traveled together to different monasteries in different countries, and we lived in some monasteries for several months together. So in those days, we already had good training in the monastic life in different Orthodox countries. So this was the beginning, and from the beginning I decided that I had to celebrate in Church Slavonic because it was not a Mexican mission, it was a Russian mission to minister the Russians, the Russian immigrants who were there in Mexico. I wasn't sure how many there were, but the first Easter we had, at least we had about 80 people or 100. So I realized that there was much work to be done. And we started from there. And
but you don't speak Russian, do you?
Not much, Father, but I understand. I understand.
So you communicate with these people, the Russians, in Spanish?
In Spanish mainly, yes, yes. And but the fathers, they are studying Russian. We speak many other languages, but the fathers, they speak also Serbian, so it's easier for them to understand Russian. For me, I have no time to study. That's my only problem. I have no time.
So you do the major services on Sunday in Church Slavonic?
Yeah, 100%.
But what about the small services, the weekday services?
Also in Church Slavonic. Only when we go to the skits, we do in Spanish, in the skits. Sometimes when let's say it's very late, so perhaps one of the fathers will decide to serve in Greek because we speak Greek. This is the common language of the three of us, and well, if they decide to serve in Greek, but it will be just for the monks, not for the people. When it's open to the people, we celebrate in Church Slavonic, but when we have like a baptism or a wedding, then we do Spanish and Church Slavonic. Why Spanish? Because mainly we will have
guests.
But just 2-3 Russians and perhaps 50 Mexicans. So we have to do more Spanish. And it is not just in order to attract the people, but I mean, there's no reason to do it in churches, only in Church Slavonic.
Have you attracted local Mexicans to the church?
Yes. I will say that 70% of our community are mixed marriages. So we try to bring the non-Orthodox spouse into the community. Otherwise, I know that we could lose the whole family. And I sit with them, we talk about different issues, not precisely about religion, and this is how I attract them. Because I guess many people in these days think that the monks are very ignorant, but when they see that I have academic training and that I am a doctor, then they listen to me and they say, well, perhaps if Father is a doctor and he is also a clergyman in the Orthodox Church, it means that there's something else.
That's not ignorance.
Yeah.
Not ignorance.
And many have joined our church.
I understand from the talk you gave at the luncheon today that the monastics support themselves by working outside of the monastery.
Yes. Mainly because our community is made of new Russians. So all of them are immigrants, new immigrants. They have children, they pay rent, their children go to school, and many of them go to the Russian school, which they also have to pay. There is a Russian school in the Russian embassy. And well, they don't have.
They can't afford to support the monastery.
Somebody told me that only the Russians give when they have much to give. Okay, so but when they try to make a living, it's difficult for them. It's very difficult. So we all the monks have a lay profession. So we all work outside the monastery. But whatever we make goes to support our mission work. I mean, and this includes the renting of the place where we live, where we worship, where we have the parish, the main parish in Mexico. Yes.
You also mentioned that you have 10 small parishes that depend on the monastery? Yes.
We have many different communities that we visit from time to time. Now it has become a bit more difficult because there's much crime. Before we used to take the car and just drive around to different cities, but now it's not possible. And we have to fly only.
Really?
Yeah. And Mexico, it's a very large country and it's very expensive. It's costly for the communities. But there are some communities who, even though they are small, they can afford it and they want to. And we visit them more often. And we go and serve a liturgy and whatever they need. Yes.
What are your relations with the other Orthodox groups in Mexico?
We don't have relations with them, not really. It's a bit complicated. We have 3 jurisdictions in addition of the Russians. We have the Church of Constantinople, the Church of Antioch, and the OCA, and the Russian Church, Moscow Patriarchate and Rockwar. But these 3 jurisdictions have metropolitans and 1 archbishop. So I am the only one who is not a bishop, and it's difficult to deal with bishops because everyone wants to take the control of the rest. So I just don't associate with them. We are extremely busy trying to minister our people and taking care of their needs, because there's much to do. There are big problems, major problems, especially with mixed marriages, and we have to hire some attorneys to counsel our people, and I have come to some agreements with the immigration department to help our people, and I'm working very much against women trafficking and domestic violence. So I'm a well-known figure for those reasons. Yeah, and also we give medical attention in Russian to whoever needs it, or even people who have no finances. We help them. We even had to pay some funerals on people who had no financial means. We paid for the whole funerals, yes.
So to complicate things, the monastery has been through very extensive hardships in the past few years.
Right.
Could you maybe tell us about that?
Yes. First of all, the rent is very expensive, Father. The place where we live, it's very nice. It's a medium-sized house, but in downtown area. It's very convenient because it's in the center of the city, and in a large city of 26 million, it's difficult to get around. But if you are in the center, it's easier for the people to get there. So we try to keep it at any cost, but it's becoming more expensive every time, and we cannot afford it anymore.
Even with all the monks working?
Yes, yeah, but because we also have 2 skids. And we have to take care of these.
This is outside the city?
Yes, 2 skids outside the city.
But these skids belong to you outright? Or?
Yes, yes. And also I had many health issues, and this made things more complicated, because at one moment I had to be under medical treatment, and I was hospitalized, and I still get some medical attention.
And you suffered through an earthquake?
Several earthquakes, Father, several earthquakes. Just in September we had 3 major ones. And last Tuesday, when I left Mexico to come to New York, that day I left early in the morning, but by noon, before noon, there were 3 earthquakes in 1 hour. Yeah.
Did you do damage to the monastery?
Yeah, mainly on the cupola and on the glasses, but the glasses are not the windows, but glasses which cover part of the walls, and it's very difficult to fix those things, because the house, it's almost 100 years old, so you need special permissions to repair these things.
It's a historical site?
It's regulated, yeah. And the landlord doesn't want to fix it unless we agree to pay the rent that he wants. But the rent is being increased like every 6 months. And I think in a few months, by July, I'm thinking that we have to move out. We have to find another place, because first of all, we cannot fix it. And it will be right in the rainy season, and with the rain, all the rain gets into the monastery. And but I was thinking about splitting the parish and the monastery. The monastery is not a problem, because we have our salaries, we could pay rent, okay? But if we rent a smaller house, we will not be able to have the parish in the monastery. So that's the problem that we are confronting. What do? We need to open the parish in another place because we cannot keep supporting. My Archbishop even told me a year ago that he came to Mexico. He said, Father, you already supported the mission work, and also now you are a deanery, and you are supporting. After 10 years, I think it's time for the people to support it. And I said, yeah, but it's a bit complicated. It's not so easy. Mm-hmm. It's not an easy issue. I think we need at least another 10 years for the community to be...
To teach them to take care of themselves.
Yes. But yes, God willing, and through the prayers of all our people, we may find a place, the right place to move the parish, because this is what concerned me the most, the parish, because we could move even to an apartment, but we would not be able to keep the parish open. And this is the main parish.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Father, very much for that, and thank you for coming, and I hope that we can be of help to you.
Thank you.
And that the people who heard your words will understand the importance of supporting our Holy Orthodox faith in the country of Mexico. God bless your work.
Thank you, Father, and keep us in your prayers.
Very good.